And we're live. Hello, hello, hello.
Hey
Welcome in,
guys.
everybody, and welcome to episode 2 of Astrology Real Talk with moi, Rhiannon, and my bestie, Rachele. And today we are going to be just kind of talking about both of our birth charts, comparing Western Tropical with True Sidereal. How are you today, my friend?
I am really good, but I
Looking
think we're just doing
beautiful.
yours today, sweetheart.
Oh, just mine. Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
I didn't grab
the heat
mine.
is on. The heat is on. Okay. Perfect. Just mine.
No personal information is on these though.
No,
So
we've got everything blocked out. And as you can see on the bottom of the screen, we are asking for some volunteers. If anybody wants to send us their information, of course, it will be anonymous. And we will do something similar to this with your charts. It's a great way if you've never had a natal chart. Rachele and I both charge for these services. So it would be a savings to you and it would be really interesting. So, how should they get a hold of us for that? Just
either in
email
the
us.
Amethyst Ascension group
Okay.
or my email is usually down below. Do you have an email address
I do.
down
I know
below?
it's associated with my YouTube, but I'll put my snip feed link in here as well in the on the bottom of the more
So you
section.
can contact either one of us if
Yeah.
you want to do it. I mean,
Yep.
either way, both of us are going to have to run the charts.
Right.
So
Exactly.
I
So
guess that doesn't really matter, but
the only thing I ask is that you do not guess on your birth time, and if you don't know for sure, let us know because that's an important tidbit of information. And that kind of segues into my own personal story about astrology, which is that my birth certificate does not have a birth time on it. And my mom has 8 kids. So every time I would ask her about my birth time, she'd give me a different time. And it kind of prevented me from really jumping into astrology the way that I wanted to, when I wanted to. And finally, like, I always want to say it's been like 3 years, but really it's been probably 7 or 8 years, but you know how time goes by so fast. But I was digging through some boxes after moving here to this house, and we'd been here for probably 3 or 4 years, and just the boxes that you never end up unpacking. And I ended up pulling out this piece of paper that my mom had filled out when I was born and to like go in my baby book. And it had my birth time on it, but not only that, it has all the well, not all, it has the 12 zodiac signs on it, not the 13.
Oh.
But I just think I always tell people I really think I time traveled back or did something to tell my mom, fill this piece of paper out with my time on it, because my mom is not into astrology or anything woo-woo. At the time, she was Mormon.
Right.
So why on earth it wasn't unusual for her to fill out baby books for us, but on a zodiac paper. So I actually have it framed up on my wall up here, but that's kind of my
That was
cool little story.
amazing. I bet
Yeah.
you did time travel.
I cannot, because my mom, when I found it, and I only found it after I had been trying to learn astrology and I was running all my family members' birth charts and doing everything I could, but until you can really understand yourself, it's really a blockage, you know? And there are a lot of people that specialize in rectifying charts if people don't know. And I'm learning, I'm on that journey so I can help people if they don't know. And one of those ways is on the way that you look from your ascendant.
Oh,
And for me, that was one of the main things that really stood out for me with True Sidereal. Because in my Western Tropical, I would be an Aries rising. And you can look up physical attributes of different rising signs, and the Aries rising would be very like reddish, you know, strawberry blonde, reddish undertones, um, angular, thin.
but that was based off of Western astrology, though.
Right. So when I looked up my True Sidereal, which is Pisces rising,
Is it?
or
Yeah, Pisces
Pisces,
rising.
Pisces rising, which is a rounder, uh, big eyes, usually more towards the dark. Just we can. I was going to maybe pull some of those things up that we could talk about, but um, when I was
Oh,
reading it, it was like boom, 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 boom. Everything was dead on.
oh,
So that was one of the things that really solidified to me the
I've
truth,
never even looked into
accuracy.
that bit.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's
your
wild.
rising sign, your ascendant is really the contributor for your physical self.
So, what do you think the difference of Cancer, if you know offhand, I don't know if you even know offhand,
Mhm.
Cancer and Gemini?
Okay, so now if you've studied I don't know what's going on my ring light. It's like adjusting itself really high and then going down really low. So I apologize for the lighting today, but so if you've ever studied, and I think you and I have talked about this, if you've studied Ayurveda at all,
Yeah.
they kind of are going to fall into those kind of categories of the Kapha, Pitta, Vata. Okay. So with
Okay.
your Gemini rising, which would be more air, those tend to be more smaller frames. Um, they're usually very short or very tall
Okay.
and drier skin. Think air. Think air. Now, it depends on if the person's in balance or not, too, right? But versus a Cancer, so the water signs, Scorpio, Cancer, Pisces, are all going to be softer, um, rounder, more feminine, more of those type of, what you would think of with the water versus air.
I'll have to look
So,
into that. That's
yeah.
pretty
Now,
cool.
when I did that, I didn't just Google it and go based off of one thing. And actually, there's a lot of different books. We kind of talked about that book last time, but the gal that we were talking about that did the Wall Street stuff, what was her name again? She
Oh,
This book that I got has a ton. This is almost all talking about the physical attributes, which is your Place in the Sun by Evangeline Adams. This is
okay.
an older one. But anyway, yeah, that's a lot of times what people will go based off of if they can't nail down a birth time is what does this person look like?
Well, one of the things that I was going to say on all that is there are things that you can do in order to, if you don't, even if you don't have a birth time, also, though,
Hmm.
just by sitting down with somebody that does have software, like myself, like yourself,
Yeah.
that we can animate it. We can animate our charts, right?
Oh yes.
So
I love that you should do that.
if you can talk to like your mom, even if she doesn't remember like
Exactly.
exactly the
Right.
time, she would have a general idea, like, or she could have a general idea. And if she doesn't, talk to aunts, talk to, grandmothers if
Right.
they're still alive, um, friends of the family, they might remember roughly what time a child was born.
Yeah. Yes.
And then you can what I do, not necessarily by what they look like,
Hmm.
but I look at the rising sign as well, because that's the major thing that you're going to have to look at. That's the
Hmm.
rising. But the
Hmm.
rising sign is what creates your first house and your whole house structure, right? So
Right.
it's
Exactly.
important. But like, how quickly do you think that that moves? Like, really out of a sign, maybe like in an
Well,
hour?
I've always looked at it like, well, we've got 24 hours and we've got, well, typically the 12 zodiac signs. So about 2 hours per sign.
Right. But that can't. So, like, if it
But with
was in
different change.
Virgo, it would be much longer. But
Yes.
if it was so it could be more like, 5 no, more like 10 hours because Virgo is almost 50 degrees in size
Well, that just sparks a thought in my mind thinking there must be a ton of
of Virgo
Virgo
rising.
risings and Pisces
Exactly,
risings. Those are the two biggest. Wow.
exactly. And
But that
Pisces
makes the birth
rising,
time even that much more important in this system.
it does, but there are ways of at least ruling it down. And then once you look at the different characteristics, because the rising sign not only does it, structure your entire wheel, but
Mhm.
it also is how people see you.
Yeah.
So once you start getting closer to maybe like two or three different, you can really determine from those two or three different ones
Yeah.
which one is more likely, and
Yep.
then just go from there. And that's probably the closest you're going to get unless you had an actual birth time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And
But
I've
there's things
recommended
that
to
can be done.
it can be done. It can be done. So if people don't know, don't give up or think that you can never have this done. That's why we just say, or let us know, because if we know this is an approximate time, we're going to do our due
Mhm.
diligence in other areas to figure it out. Versus if you say this is the time I'm born, we're going to assume that that's your
Right.
accurate birth time. But when I was studying through the Church of Light, through all their astrology programs, they also will do horary astrology, which is more of like a predictive style of astrology where you'll ask a question and then you cast a chart at that point in time that the question's asked, and then based upon that they're going to look at certain markers for birth time too. So now
So it's like
I
a
haven't.
synergy kind of thing where they put one chart on top of the other, like a current transit, time
So
of the
so
question?
it could be for any question, but I know they use birth rectifying birth charts as one of them. So it's just the birth chart of the time that question is put out in the universe. But depending on the question, you're going to look at different planets and different houses to answer it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's a very, very,
Interesting.
very nuanced type of astrology that I'm super interested in. And I have
Yeah.
tons of books on it, but then I got sidetracked from Western tropical to True Sidereal. So I'm going to be going down that rabbit hole again, but here
I
we
would
are.
love to go down it with you
Yes.
and
Yeah.
have something to,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, and I think that's where the terminology horoscope comes from, horary astrology.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not their system. It's a really used to be a very popular style of astrology in the early 1900s.
Oh,
And I
wow.
think that's the type that astrologers like Evangeline Adams were using as horary astrology. So, anyways,
That's
but
very cool.
today we're going to be digging into me, my birth
Into
chart.
you.
So, thanks, Mom, for filling out that paper. And so, should we pull up my Western tropical first, do you think?
Yes. So let me just do this. So, wow. I mean,
I've got a lot
at a
going on over there on
glance,
the right side.
yeah, at a glance, you hardly have anything in your first house.
Yeah,
You've got your Chiron.
Chiron, which is a tough place to have it. I mean, Chiron's tough, right? So
Yeah,
it's gonna be tough wherever, but definitely having, first house being m- me, myself, and
right.
having that wounded um energy there. I mean, I think as women in general, we are all to a certain extent constantly judging ourselves and feeling not good enough and beating up our bodies. And I've definitely struggled through my entire life with dieting, gaining weight, losing weight. It's just a constant struggle for my identity. And when I learned about astrology with Chiron being there, now in this Western tropical, you can see it's Taurus, but first house in general is just tough. Now, I think I don't know, I can't remember. We've had so many conversations, and this is where I'm going to ask people to try and not be defensive or try not to take everything so personally, because a lot of these things are generalizations. That's how we learn. That's what a system is. And so not everything's applicable to everybody all the time. These are
Right.
archetypes.
Right.
But in general, with first house, when you see people with heavy first house placements or your with the planets, the closer the planet is to Earth, generally the more power it is. So, and then the sun. So the sun being the most powerful, and you've got Venus, Mercury, moon, right?
Hmm.
So when people have those planets or many planets, a stellium in the first house, that can be very indicative of a me type personality. And that can go either way. That can be somebody that might tend towards martyring themselves and being in victim mentality, or it might be somebody who moves more towards like narcissism. And so,
Wow.
that's just that's the first house. When you've got a lot there, when I look at somebody's chart, I do look at the first house pretty because it's one, but just because I know that it's the self, right? So it's very important.
It's like the front door.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like,
And let's say somebody did come to me and they had 5 planets in the first house. I'm not gonna be like, "Narcissist." There's nothing wrong with it, but I am gonna look at it like, "Okay, this person is here to really figure out who they are." You know,
right.
I look at when you've got a stellium or you've got a lot of those closer planets as like, you're really here to do this. I tend to look at the whole natal chart as like, we're signing up for college classes. What is the degree that I want to get?
Of
What
course.
classes do I need to take? What classes have I already taken? What classes do I want to take as like electives? So that's the way I kind of explain that to my clients. So that way it makes it feel less of less of an attack. Some of these placements are going to be tough, but we signed up for those to learn certain lessons or have certain experiences. Go ahead.
I think it also depends on who is doing the, because like I've said before,
Mhm.
people see astrology just like they see tarot, just like they see any other kind of divination system or whatever. They see it differently. They see it through
Yes,
their own lens.
sure.
So you could go to 10 different astrologers of the same system and
Yep,
you're going to get 10 different readings.
absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
you
I
know,
would, and
the
that, so
first
that's
house
why
can
you,
also mean if they're in retrograde.
yeah,
Does that mean that they're just somebody that's very inward focused? Could it mean that they're an
yeah,
introvert,
yeah,
a strong introvert? Could it mean that they have like any kind of learning disabilities, or you know what I mean? Any of
yeah,
those kind of things.
certainly, certainly. And that's why we should always take everything with a grain of salt, and we should look at multiple sources. And that's when it's important to learn for yourself so that you can
Mhm.
um, see what that is for you. But again, just because when we're speaking about generalizations, that's all you can do is generalize. the the first house is the house of self. So Chiron, back to the Chiron placement that I have there. It's been difficult, and I am approaching my Chiron return. So see, this is where it doesn't really matter what system it is, whether I'm looking at it Western tropical or True Sidereal. I'm still going to be going through that transit, and it will still be the first house for me. It's just going to differ in the zodiac sign.
So, okay. So let's just really quick with saying that.
Yeah.
Let me just switch
Yep.
really quick.
Because it might not be like that for everybody. As in the house is staying the same. Is that what you mean?
Did it change it?
There it is.
Let me look on this one. Okay. So it did change your Chiron into right on the cusp, literally right on the cusp of Pisces and Aries
Yeah.
instead of being in
Aries,
Taurus.
Taurus.
The
Mhm.
Taurus, I could see that as really like feeling like how you would like value yourself is in your
Yeah.
possessions or something like that,
Mhm.
whereas or how other people would see you, but
Mhm.
this is how you would value yourself, in my opinion, on your ability to use your imagination and focus on like certain psychic things that have happened to you, whether or not that's not just your imagination or whether or not that's actually something that's happening. Because I know for me, my Chiron is in Pisces.
Oh, yeah.
And for me, the very first half of my life,
Mhm.
which is really what our Chiron is about, what we heal from
Right.
as we get older. These are the things that we learn, right? This is what
Yeah.
we heal from.
Yep.
So these are like our challenges.
Yep.
I would have these psychic dreams my whole friggin' life, but I always just thought it was just a wild imagination or some of the things that happened to me on the paranormal realm were just kind of like shoved under the
Right.
carpet.
Right.
Like, no, that didn't happen. But as I get older now, I am embracing that. And it's
Yeah.
because of the work that I've
It's your
done.
strength and your message.
Exactly.
That's it goes to that, I think it was Oprah that said it, or somebody on Oprah. Your mess becomes your message.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
I'm at 0 degrees Aries. So I agree with that from the Pisces cusp standpoint. I would look at the Chiron in Aries as a learning to work with my leadership um, gifts and have them be in balance where it's not overtly
Like
forceful
pushy,
or
pushy
pushy
girl.
with which I definitely can be with my opinions and my your Aries can be very dominant. But see, it's just kind of cool and again, I don't know if it'll be like this for everybody, but for my chart, I have found that because I went from Western tropical being an Aries rising to now a Pisces rising, which makes so much sense too. But I still have this Aries energy here in the first house with this placement. So it's just looking at it from a slightly different perspective, but it's still who I thought that I was and I am. Didn't change it. Go ahead.
But hang on a second here.
Yeah.
One thing that I want to point out about that placement, with you
Yeah.
being an Aries rising before,
Yeah.
you were in Aries, okay?
Mhm.
Whereas this one, you are in Pisces and coming into Aries.
As the
So,
ascendant.
right.
Yeah.
So to me, that just shows, even if you have a lot of strong Aries that you're coming
Yeah.
into,
Yep.
it's more of an evolved Aries
Yeah. Sure.
because
Great.
you've
That's a great
come
way to
through
put
the cycle already. You're just
it.
coming
Mhm.
out of the 12th house into the first house again from
Again.
Pisces.
Yeah, great way to look at it. Perfect. That
So,
is. With also that being my south node
yeah.
in
Yeah.
Pisces. So that's definitely makes sense with, that's where we're coming from.
Yeah, and that's what you're good at, is your psychic abilities. I mean, for goodness sakes, you are a psychic hotline reader, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and that was with my Western tropical chart. I'm like, there's no water here at all. And of course, somebody that doesn't have any water can still be intuitive inside. I mean, they can. But
Right.
doesn't it just make so much more sense? So I'm glad you have this pulled up. So yeah, I mean, it's just so Pisces rising. Then if you come over here, we've got the Ophiuchus placements, the Scorpio placements, Cancer moon. I'm predominantly water,
Yeah. You have a lot of water placements.
but in my Western tropical, there's literally not a single thing. And
You
I'm a very emotional empath. I mean, if I'm happy, I cry. If I'm sad, I cry. If you're happy, I'll cry. If you're sad, I'm cry. Commercials, movies, anytime I go see a movie, here's my kids. They're looking down to see when I'm going to start crying. Can you
are they
believe
going to pull
I
me?
watch a
I'm
movie?
going to
And
pull
they
you.
just stare at me like, what's wrong with you?
The
And
one
again,
that gets me is Folgers in your cup with the guy that
yes.
comes home.
Oh my gosh. And
Yeah.
so it's just it makes so much sense. But it did kind of shift a little bit to where now we've got something going on here in this upper left hand corner on my Western tropical. That whole area is completely,
Let me
empty.
show that again.
Yeah, it just looks barren up there.
Let me get it over.
Which 12th house is the house of hardships and secrets and and that's a real big theme in my
Oh,
life. Now,
sorry.
secrets specifically, and it makes sense that I would have something going on there, which in the true sky, I have the South Node in Pisces 12th house.
So, wow. Yeah, where is it? I don't even see it on here.
So on this, this one doesn't show this. It just shows your North Node. Then you have to just assume that that the South Node's going to be where it is. So in, oh, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute.
I'll say I don't even see it on
Okay.
here.
Okay. But what I have to remember is on this chart. So North Node Libra. So South Node would be Aries. So I guess it would be still in the 12th house either way. It just doesn't show it up there. You have to add that in, like I added in the
Oh, I do see
aspect.
it. I do see it in Libra.
the north node. But see, on the chart, it shows us the glyph for both the north and the south node, which is
Right.
nice. With this, you just have to remember, oh, if the north node's in Libra, then the south node's in Aries.
I got to pause 1 second,
Yeah.
sweetie.
Okay. So I guess we can move to second house. I don't have placements in second house either way, right?
You don't? Nope. But your placement changes. Instead of Taurus being your first house. Sorry. Okay.
Okay. So second house, we go from second house Taurus to second house. Second house is still Taurus for me.
Yeah, but on your regular chart, your Western chart, it looks like your second house is mainly Gemini.
Oh, yeah. Why was I just staring at the first house? Yeah, you're right. That moves.
So that changes everything.
So it actually moves. So the True Sidereal actually moves my chart into even more of a natural chart.
Right.
Really,
Exactly.
the houses fall where they rule.
Right. Exactly.
So
that's freaking powerful in itself.
I think so, but it did make it threw a wrench in my learning because I for a long time didn't realize that wasn't how it happened for everybody else, and that made it harder for me to grasp the concept that the ascendant dictated where your houses fall because all mine went where they go.
Right.
So I was like, wait, what do you mean?
What do you mean?
Now I get it, but we all have to learn. So third house is a big energy for me. And again, like Rachele said, we all these houses rule many things, but we will pick out as an important one probably things that are applicable more to us. So third house is learning and communication, but it's also siblings. So what I always go to first is actually siblings because I have, let's see, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 siblings. And I have in there, this was a placement that you were talking about. Oh, wait, was it you or somebody was talking about Black Moon Lilith? And so I've got Jupiter there. So wherever you've got Jupiter, it's going to be very important because that's a planet of expansion. And we always just talk about Jupiter as though it's hunky-dory, happy, abundance. And it is because it's a benefic planet. But expansion is often painful. Growth is often
depends on what kind of expansion we're talking about here.
Yeah. And with my siblings specifically, and then being Gemini, so then Gemini's also, again, learning and siblings. So it doubles down that energy for me there. So with the Jupiter it being a big area of focus for my life, and then Black Moon Lilith there, and my IC, and my Jupiter retrograde, my siblings have been such a huge theme of my life, and then how it relates to education and siblings. I basically was forced to drop out of high school when I was in 10th grade to babysit my younger sisters.
Wow. Yeah, it has to do also with communication
and learning.
Has to do with writing. So if somebody is heavily placed in this particular house, it can show like somebody that becomes a future writer or a teacher.
Do you know how many books I have started?
Exactly.
I blame the retrograde for why I've only started all these books and not finished any of them.
It has to do with our neighborhood.
Yeah.
So like local shops, like things where
local. It's also local travel versus ninth house being long distance travel. And ninth house being higher learning, like university and higher, and third house being more like primary education.
Yes. Yeah.
So but how those themes showed up is even more pure or more really how it was for my life if I'm looking at my True Sidereal chart versus if I look here. Sorry, I keep looking over here because I've got my True Sidereal chart. But if we look on the screen, so in my Western Tropical, we've just got the Jupiter and the Black Moon Lilith, but it's in Cancer. Now, I used to make that fit because Cancer being more of like a mother figure type energy, and I was that to my siblings, you know. But again, you can make things, everybody has all of these energies, and you're going to always make something fit based upon your belief of it,
I agree.
you know.
But another thing I'm noticing here is on your chart,
Mhm.
and this is probably no, it can't be that. You're showing uh regular direct with, at least unless they're not
No,
showing any retrograde.
these ones don't show the retrograde. I think it does if we go look in the little like your aspect chart, my aspect chart down there. But yeah, it
Oh,
doesn't
okay.
show the arc because I actually have Jupiter, Mars, Mercury, and is Chiron retrograde for everybody?
Chiron's always retrograde.
I know you said the nodes
At
are,
least
but
I believe it is.
okay, I'm not sure on that or not. But I have
I could be wrong.
Mercury, Mars, Jupiter, also retrograde. I have a lot of retrograde energy.
Okay, yeah, because it is showing retrograde on mine too. I mean, on your True Sidereal.
Yes, yes.
So is your Mars, so is your Saturn, so is your
Oh, Saturn. Yep,
Mercury.
you're right. Saturn is. Where is Saturn
So
right now? Oh, there it is.
so
Saturn, fifth house. Okay. Yep, retrograde. So
yeah, we don't.
what is your general viewpoint of retrograde planets
Retrograde planets, if I
in
can
a
speak
natal chart
properly,
specifically?
to me just means more of like going inward
Mhm.
rather than so more of you're using that energy more inwardly and reflecting on it versus always
Projecting.
acting on it, or yes, projecting it.
Mhm.
That's how I see that. What about
Yeah.
you?
I agree, and I think that, yes, I do think it's a challenge, but I look at challenges as opportunity for growth and opportunity to see things from different perspectives, and kind of like the Chiron energy of wounded healer, when you sign up for a lot of retrograde planets like this, I would look at that like, okay, well, you didn't come here to have it easy. You came
Right.
here to, you know, see the struggle, be the struggle. But that's when you come through that, that's how you're able to teach and help and move into those things. But I will say also, it has changed my perspective of retrogrades because I'm a little bit like, oh, okay, I'm in my natural energy, my natural habitat. So instead of me being so dreadful of it, the way a lot of people are,
It's
because
like
that's the way that I was born, I'm like, okay, I got this.
exactly.
This
Yes.
is what I came here to do. So I don't really focus on it a ton.
Okay.
All right, we've had a little moment where we had to let our dogs have a little breather. Rochelle and I both have dogs that like to sass back every once in a while. So I think we're going to move from our third house into fourth house. So fourth house, home, right? Is that what you think of when you think of the fourth house?
Yes. It's the mother.
It's the
It's the
mother.
home, family, ancestor, but it's the strong mothering that
Yeah. I
Cancer.
have a little tiny different of perspective with fourth and 10th house now, only in this with most of the study that I've done being through the Church of Light Hermetic Astrology. They look at the 10th and the fourth house, mother and father, but they flip it. But mostly they will say the 10th house is the dominant parent.
Interesting.
So the fourth house is the father, the 10th house is the mother, but modernizing it, I think, to get out of those gender roles and things like that, they're just saying the dominant, whoever the most influential parent is the 10th house. But anyways, so I do tend to just look at both fourth and 10th as parents, as the
Right.
influence of the parents. But so yes. And then again, we've got Cancer there for me, which, well, we've got it split now between Cancer and Leo. And in Western Tropical, I was a Leo moon, and you can see I'm just right there on the cusp still, but in Cancer, and that makes so much sense to me, with, again, my very, 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 very empathic nature. Very, very sensitive. Very sensitive Cancer moon. Mars there in Cancer also. That was one that, I'm still detaching from the identity of it. And I will put this here as a side note, and this is kind of what I've been kind of telling anybody that I find that is interested in astrology, just how much of an advantage it would be to be able to start with your True Sidereal, so you don't have to like go back and deprogram. But, for those of you who have been deep into your Western tropical and you're nervous, it's okay. We have attachments to things sometimes, and you can take whatever time you need. And again, there are going to be plenty of people that are never going to want to come over and see the truth, and that's okay. And I'll say it the way that Rachele says it, because I think it's so true, which is, it's not our truth. It's just the truth. It's where these are where the planets were at when we're born, in the True Sidereal. This is what we're looking at right now on the screen, this Western tropical. That is not, I did not have my moon in Leo. I did not have my Mars in Leo. Those planets were not there. So, but I had spent hours and hours and hours and hours, because I felt like I had to play catch up because I didn't have my birth time when I wanted to start learning. Once I got it, I mean, I went in all the way 100% and has spent hours and hours taking classes, certifications, books, money, time. So it's hard to let go of something like that. But I'm not doing this to call myself an astrologer. I'm not even doing this to be really part of my job. I would say any money that I make on astrology is maybe a tenth of my income, So it's not like it matters to me one way or another what system I'm using. In fact, it's probably easier to be the popular astrology, at least for now, is always going to be with the Western tropical, because people just don't know. But
There's more resources out there for
there's
it.
so much
That
more
is the
resources. And
right.
even now, because astrology every day, and with social media and especially TikTok, it's so focused on the ick that we don't really care for, which is the stereotype. It's not even archetypal, it's just stereotype nonsense
It is.
about the signs. So if you're into that, and I don't judge anybody for whatever they're into, but for me, astrology, it's a roadmap. What am I supposed to be doing in this life? What did I sign up for? Again, if I look at it like,
Mhm.
this is my, I'm trying to graduate this level of this life, and I believe there's multiple levels.
Mhm.
What is it that I came here to do this time?
Right.
So,
Where did your past life, what were you strong in your past life? What
yeah,
did you bring over from your past life? What are you supposed to be aiming towards? What is your life mission? These
yep,
are all things that we can see in our chart.
yep,
However, if those things don't interest you and you just want to get like a reading on something that you think that you are because you feel like it fits, well then learning about astrology is not for you.
I agree.
You know, you know, I mean, maybe it is like in a mundane kind of way. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah,
just like,
it's
okay, this
kind
is
of the
what it
difference
says
between,
my thing is supposed to be today. But
yes, yes. That's kind of the difference between people that'll just stay at the surface sun sign astrology,
right,
as if that one placement, which is even where the placement is at, is your entire personality. That's
right,
never going to be true for anybody, whether that was True Sidereal or tropical or Vedic or any other system. We're
exactly.
all of these things. So
This series is clearly not for anybody that's just, this is for people that really want to dig deep into the astrology, but also for that astrology to actually match up with the astronomy.
yeah,
People that want to use, and this is why I think of witches and or people that are magical practitioners,
yeah,
because they are utilizing the actual hours and the planetary energy in order to facilitate what they want out of their life. But if they're using something, and you can use it, you can use it all you want. You can use it till the cows come home. But that doesn't mean that it's aligning up with the actual cosmic
Well,
energies.
now that you say that, okay, so then what I wonder what hours are going to be ruled by Ophiuchus. We're just going to have to fill in, add some hours between Scorpio and Sagittarius. Because, like, if you were to go Google planetary hours, you're going to be able to find very easily all the correspondences for that system. This is why the work that we're trying to do is important, because we don't have people that are just going to be able to spoon feed us this. If we want that, we have to go figure it out.
But here's the thing. I think when figuring out, and please correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't normally use the hours per se
Mhm.
in my witchcraft. I
Right.
can. However, it's not like a common thing that I
Right.
do.
Uh-huh.
I'll just use like an energy of a planet. I don't get that deep into it. But
Right. Right.
if you want to use it, then don't you focus on what day of the week it is first,
Hmm.
what is coming up exactly at, because those are day hours. So you take a look at your day hours. So once sunset has come up, that's when the first hour starts. And then it would just go by each hour, right? But the Chaldean,
I'm gonna
which
grab.
has all of them planets, doesn't even, well, I guess that would be the planets.
I'm
So
grabbing.
Ophiuchus probably wouldn't even fall into that, honey. It would be probably more planetary hours, not necessarily
True, 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 true,
Ophiuchus
true.
hours.
True, 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 true. Okay, so when I've
We're
worked
confusing
with
ourselves.
that, I've worked with the greater key, the Key of Solomon has all the tables for that. So I think you're exactly right. But the day of the week is also planetary. So I think, and then I
Right.
think there are hours of the day that are planetary. So you're right. Now maybe I'm confusing that with fixed star. Yeah, planetary hours. So hours from midnight, just like you said, from midnight to midnight.
So
Sun,
those are the
Venus,
evening
Mercury,
hours.
Moon, Saturn, Jupiter. Yeah, they're planetary. You're right. Okay, we're
And
good.
that's where like your planetary squares and come in and stuff like that.
Right.
For like making sigils
Yeah,
and things like
amulets
that.
and talismans.
Right.
And I was just talking about this with somebody yesterday. So talismans are lucky. So I think Jupiter's talisman, and then amulets are more like for protection. So like a maybe you might
Oh,
like a
okay.
Saturn being for protection, right? Kind of F around and find out type of a situation. Whereas Jupiter being abundance, or Venus, you would make that into a talisman.
Well, I mean, I do a lot of my goddess work on Fridays, which is Freya for
Yeah.
Friday,
Yes.
Freya. And I do all of my abundance usually every Thursday, abundance work every Thursday, because that's Jupiter day.
Yep.
Wednesday is like Odin, which would be what? Is
Wednesday's
Odin
Mercury.
Mercury?
Yep.
Right. So Odin is Mercury.
Okay,
Same
cool.
as like Enki or
Oh, I didn't know those were the same. Monday,
right.
moon day, Sunday,
Zeus is
Sunday.
Enlil
Oh, yeah,
and
yeah.
Yahweh.
Yahweh, yeah.
We're totally getting off.
I know. This is what we do. This is what we do. But I think it's interesting. I don't know about you, but whenever I've done, like, let's say like my moon work, I never really was pulling in the zodiac energy anyway. I was just, it's whether it's a full moon or a new moon or a waxing or, but I kind of wonder if that was just intuitively because I wasn't really fully resonating because that really energy wasn't there.
Right.
So
But you want to know
now
what
that
I
I
find
know it is,
interesting?
hmm,
With it Monday being moon day and
yeah,
our intuition day and like
yes,
dreams and stuff like that, I have been tracking now, not just the date,
uh-huh.
but also what day of the week is that I have my heavy dreams. And
Oh,
the
good.
majority have been on
Yeah,
Mondays
yeah.
that I'm remembering my dreams
Okay.
on
Yeah.
Mondays.
Well, because I don't remember what book. I think it might have been a book about on magic from Damien Eccles, but that's when I started my dream journal. And he would recommend that you would write down the day of the week. If you're a woman, if you're having a cycle still, you write down kind of where you're at on your cycle. Because a lot of times you're going to have more intuitive dreams when you're on your moon.
Your cycle.
And I will write down, yeah, the date,
That makes sense.
the moon cycle, and my moon cycle. So full moon,
Yes.
like, but so you should still be writing down the cycle that the moon's in and the sign that the moon's in, maybe. Add that.
Yes.
'Cause you've
I
already
need to
noticed with
start doing that.
Monday, so then I wonder if you'll start noticing if it's like a Monday under a certain moon energy that you're having more intense dreams or a certain type of I can
Prophetic.
say prophecy, but I can't say
I
prophetic.
do have like very heavy, like on full moons,
Mhm.
where a lot of people are up crazy and have all
I'm
kinds of
always
energy.
I'm always
I
up crazy
have like
too.
no energy.
You're
I
sleepy
am
people.
so tired and I
Yeah,
dream heavy on full moons
yeah,
always.
okay. 'Cause it's like
So,
we have work to do. Come on, let's go to bed.
but you know what? I was weird too. I mean, TMI guys, but my cycle,
Yeah.
when I would have a cycle, was not every 28 days like the moon.
Was it longer or shorter?
It was every 35 days roughly
Oh,
is what my
wow.
normal cycle was.
Wow.
Yep, but it was
Surprised you
always
had
longer
I'm
too.
surprised you had so many children.
Only
I
had
mean, you
2.
didn't have a ton of I know, but people with 35-day cycles struggle with fertility more.
Yeah.
The further you are
Oh,
from a 28-day cycle is more likely to struggle with PCOS and things like that. Just side note, but
but my cycles were always longer. I mean, anywhere from
well,
7
TMI
to
on
9
cycles too.
days.
When you were starting to transition out, and I don't even know if are you all the way through? Are you like
I haven't had one in a while. I've been
okay.
really getting off
Oh, but
track,
when you were
guys. Sorry.
starting to notice it change, I guess I assumed that they would go further and further out. For whatever reason, my cycle, I'm coming like mine's coming every 24 days. Ain't nobody got
That
time for
happens
that.
too. That happens. It's really fluctuating right
Like,
now.
no,
But
thank
also
you.
keep in mind some of the supplements maybe that you're
Yeah,
taking,
true.
the
Well,
mushroom,
weight loss kinda so when you lose
mess with
weight,
it.
it releases the hormones that were stored in that fat. So that's kind of what I think is going on. Because 'Cause I'm
Uh-huh.
like, "Wait a minute. I didn't sign up for this. I'm looking forward this time in my life to go without this nonsense, not having it come more
Mhm.
frequently." Good grief.
And this is astrology real talk, people.
But to bring it back to our topic, we were on my moon sign. Yeah.
That's true.
So, moon in this you can see, Western tropical would be the 5th house, but in my,
It's your 4th house.
which,
Yeah.
both make sense. So 5th house being children, fun, creativity, 4th house being mother and home. So, and to have my moon there, those kind of, again, for me, end up having kind of similar stuff, but Cancer moon just makes so much sense with what a crybaby I'm. Saturn, 0 degrees,
And psychic abilities too,
psychic
because
abilities.
cancers are very psychic.
Mhm. And I mean, I do that from home.
Yeah. Okay,
Okay,
so let's move on to the
yeah,
5th house, or
yes. 5th
well,
house,
Saturn.
Saturn in Leo in my True Sidereal. Now that is again one way that I was able to make this fit. Because I will I'm always an open book. I am not a person that really keeps a lot hidden. Part of the reason for that is that I just feel like when you own yourself, when you own your story, fully, nobody can use it against you. So, full disclosure,
Yeah.
I've talked about this on my channel before, but for anybody that's new and doesn't know, I had an affair and so did my husband. When we had dated in high school, but we had broken up and married different people. My husband married a few different people, but when we came back around again, we were both married and we had an affair. And yeah, that's not an ideal situation. And a lot of I'm not proud of it, but it's part of my
Mhm.
story and I don't hide it. And 5th house is also, and again, it's not something that's widely
Like
known because most
canceling.
people aren't looking for affairs or looking at that as an integral part of their story. But for me, that was one of the biggest things that's ever happened to me in my life. Well, because not only was there an affair, but then my husband died. My first husband died, and all through this whole process, right? So for me, you're looking for stuff like that in your chart. You're looking at like, okay, well, what makes me susceptible to that? Not as a way to say, oh, well, I don't have any accountability because I have Saturn in the 5th house, but I also have in the Western tropical, you can see I have Mars there. Mars is your sexual desire, it's very fighty, it's what you will fight for, it's what you're going to fight against, it's your sexual urges.
And your
So in the Western tropical, I had the moon, the Mars, and Saturn. But if we go to my true sidereal, I end up just having Saturn. But Saturn is the
in
great
retrograde.
malefic in retrograde. It's the great malefic. And so love affairs are
I
ruled
think
by
we
the
need
fifth
to
house.
look also in your seventh house, though, of partners as well, and marriage. And in that, in West or in True Sidereal,
Yep.
you have
Uranus.
two
And
asteroids.
yep.
You have Hestia, or which is the eternal flame. So
Uh-huh.
I'm wondering if that means that you're now with your twin flame.
I mean, you know that that's my belief. But again, I kind of
It's right there, right
right there.
next to Uranus. They're
Yeah.
like in a conjunction with each other by
Well,
one
what I
degree.
need to do is then look at my husband's and see where his is too, to do like a synastry on that, right?
Yeah.
Um, but so yeah, I don't look at that and go, "Oh, well, I have Saturn in the 5th house, so that's why I'm a cheater." But why that was important to me too is like if I was susceptible to that one time, how do I make sure that I heal and clear from that so that I don't do something like that again?
I don't
And
think it was about that.
I no, that's I cheated on my first husband many times, Rachele, many times. I was a
Oh,
cheater.
okay.
It was a habitual thing. Now,
And was he as well?
no, but he was a
Oh,
drug addict and he was doing all the things he was doing and hiding all that. But the thing that
you
I
sure he wants
wasn't,
us all on here?
I don't care. I really don't care because again, there's nothing that somebody could try to use against me because I own it so fully and
You're
I
open.
don't believe in just owning our shiny happy parts of our story.
True.
But I was a lot of things but I wasn't a liar. So I never did lie to my husband and I was using it more as a tool to be like, don't you care? Are you going to do
Right.
anything? Do you love me? Are you going to try to stop me? You know? And he was like, no, I'm not.
Mm.
I really could care less. He was just, doing his own thing. But then when that relationship's over and I find myself in a relationship that I'm feeling um good in, I don't want to wreck it. I don't want to ruin it. So I have to look at myself and go, okay, how can I prevent myself from falling down those same mistakes? Astrology or no astrology, but also I've run synastry with my husband and he also has Mars in the 5th house and he's got so
Mine is too.
Mars and Saturn. But again, somebody could smoke cigarettes and get lung cancer and somebody else might smoke cigarettes for their life and not. So just because somebody has a placement doesn't mean that's 100% going to happen to them.
I have 5 placements in my 5th house.
Yeah. Yeah, it's and then it also is what it's aspected to and your past life karmas and my past life. So
Mhm.
everything is unique. But that is where that showed up for me and then it was important for me to identify that so that I could learn that just because I have a tendency towards something and you could make this applicable to any other
Mhm.
thing you have a tendency towards. I'm at the end of the day, we're still in control of our choices,
Okay,
regardless
let
of
me
what
just
our
ask you a
astrology.
simple question. See, I don't
Yeah.
think that was a tendency. I think that you were just not with the right person. You were It was not a good situation.
No,
And
it
those
wasn't a
things
good
had to
situation.
come about in order for your 7th house,
But
which is
this
where your true partner is, in order
yeah,
for that to come about.
but
So
but
it's all the
my
way you
my
look at it.
that husband, I mean, when I met him, I have the journal. I kept that journal. When I met him, I went home and wrote my journal. I am going to marry this man and have his children. I knew immediately when I met him. That is part of why I don't just believe in the
Is
twin
that
flame
past
part of the
tense?
story. I believe in the karmic partner part of that story. He
Mhm.
was my karmic partner 1,000,000%. And
Why
I
is that?
knew why is it?
Why was that? What do you have that was unfinished from a previous lifetime or several previous
Yeah.
lifetimes in
Yeah.
order for that to come in? Did he
Yeah.
do something so horrible to you in a
Oh, yeah.
previous life that this was like balancing that back out again? And that
Yeah.
was a contract that you guys made before coming into this one? See, I
I
think we can kind of see
yeah.
all that stuff.
Mhm. Yeah. That well, maybe we'll have to do a synastry on that because I am such an open
Mhm.
book. It wouldn't bother me to be like, okay, here's what we can see. But I know. I mean, was it a healthy relationship? Absolutely not. But was it
Was it a
the
learning
relationship that I
relationship
was supposed to be in? Absolutely. I was more
with
karmically
kids?
tied to that than
Mhm.
your twin flame. You might not ever end up in union with, and you don't I don't believe that we even come in as incarnations in every lifetime together. I think you'll go a lot of lifetimes without that person, and that's why there's such a disconnect. And when you come together, there's a like this almost obsession and this urgency to be with that person.
Yeah.
But there was a uniqueness also where in my twin flame situation, I was the runner, not the I wasn't the chaser, I was the runner. My when my now husband met me, he knew immediately that I was the one. And I was the one that was like, "Nope, I have karma with this guy." He didn't even then when I met my husband, he didn't even want to date me. He was running from me and I was chasing after him like, I'm going to have your kid."
Now, let me ask you something. When you think of Uranus,
Yes.
Uranus is like the rebel, right? That revolutionary. And
Yes.
that's in your seventh house in Libra.
Yeah.
That's what brought you balance, was that rebel act of having an affair from your fifth house.
That's a great
It
perspective
shows
on
it. And you've also, and it's in a 1 degree different conjunction with Hestia,
it.
which is that
So what's
eternal
Hestia?
flame,
Because
Hestia.
I know you're so into the asteroids right now, and I can't wait to get that book. But honestly, I've never even looked at the asteroids.
And that's not all. You've
So what's
also got
Hestia?
Pallas Athene. So Athena, goddess of wisdom and war, also in your seventh house in Libra. And seventh house is supposed to be based off of
Yeah.
Libra
Libra and
and the
romantic
scales and
relationship.
karma.
Yeah.
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 So a lot of that, you see it in your fifth house, but it's really in your seventh house.
And also my descendant in the seventh
Yes.
house.
But that's in Virgo.
Oh, that is in Virgo, yeah.
Yes. So
So
you know what?
anyway,
We are getting close to the hour
I know.
line.
So
We're
let's at
gonna have
least cover Ophiuchus and then we'll
okay. We'll
so
get into the second half though of your
oh,
chart next time.
okay. Okay.
We'll just we don't have to do this really fast. You know
Yeah,
what I
I
mean?
agree.
People will tune in that want to tune in and see
Yeah.
the different things that you can see in a chart.
And the people that are okay with our ramble
Baggage. Airing our baggage.
baggage and our baggage. Own your shit. That's what I say. It's
You
like,
know?
you know, and and just as like a to just close that down, um, I have done a ton of work with my husband's ex-wife. We are great friends. We co-parent great. We're all good. Everybody's great and happy. If she's okay with it, random strangers on the internet can deal. You know what I mean?
Balance.
Balance.
What happened brought karmic balance.
Yeah.
Because look at it's all in your seventh house in Libra. I mean, it shows itself right there. You had to do that rebel act. You had to tear your freaking life up in order to bring that karma back in balance.
Yeah. I
It's
think
almost like you
Uranus.
didn't have control of it. Free will is what we choose before we come into life.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay.
Agreed. Agreed.
So
And if we don't face it now, you're gonna face it next time.
exactly.
You can run, but you can't hide. So I'm like,
So
"Oh, okay.
we gotta stop.
Hand me that nuclear bomb." Okay,
We
but
gotta seriously end this now,
yeah,
or we won't be able to
okay.
upload it.
Well,
So
that's that's today. That's what we have today. So whatever your closing thoughts are.
we'll see you next time.
See you next time,
Right
and let
now.
us know if you want us to look at your chart and blow your world up on the internet.
Yep, exactly. Just contact one of us, either over at Amethyst Ascension. In my description is my email address, and you
I'll
will
have
have a
my
link
snip
for
feed in the
your
link.
stuff down here.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. See you guys next time.